So, my dear students, you've familiarized yourselves with relating the events. I've shown you three questions concerning this, this subject, and you will have your part now. So you are playing the part to the point number one. All right, I will play your role. The poetry evening that I went to was organized in one of the classrooms in our school, but it was so beautifully decorated that you wouldn't believe it. All right, that is your message. That you were asked where this poetry evening took place. And now, as an examiner, I will raise the question. I will ask you, really, who else was there? So, I have posed the question to you, and now you will reply. Almost all the students from our course, from different groups, of many different nationalities. Most of our teachers were there too. I think there were about 70 people altogether. And again, you will be questioned. You will be given a question as follows. Were there any special attractions? All right, and now you will respond. We'll have another item now, and the item is what attractions, special attractions took place that evening. All right, and you have your role. So you say, you bet. There was a contest, for example. Every group had to present a poem in the most unusual way possible. So some students' unexpected and unusual presentation was made by our teachers. They jumped out on stage playing real instruments and singing a wonderful lyrical poem. It turned out that it was written by Miss Jones, our teacher. They won easily. Okay. All right, that's all to the second round relating to or according to our relating the events. All right, and now we'll have negotiating. So the third under point in this set number 2 of basic level in the task 1. All right, so now to this negotiating, working in vacation time, in summer holidays time, in Dublin, Ireland. You would want to organize and run an evening with jollity, kind of jollity. So, merrymaking. And you want to organize it with your roommates and you organize it for society of your acquaintances, and you will go to your neighbor, older lady, living above you, one store above, and you go there upstairs, and you make your way to her, and you want to inform her in advance, so warn her about this jealousy. Yeah. So you want to have a conversation with her about this diversion, about this amusement. Well, and now you will touch three points important for this conversation. The first one is try to bring her to your mind, to your side. Persuade her that you will not be, your behavior will not be noisy, so to say, in simple English. So there will be no tapping, you will not be robustious. Number two, express your understanding to her anxiety, to her being misgiven, to her eventual misgiving, and assure her about your meeting downstairs, that it will be finished before midnight. And number three, do not agree with proposed condition, and suggest a compromise to her. These are the 3 points that we will touch now in examination, official examination for matriculation concerning negotiating. All right, so we start. You are examinee, so you say, Mrs. Smith, I promise we won't make a lot of noise. It's only a very small party, just a few friends. You can believe me, there won't be any dancing or loud music. All right, and now, examiner will ask you, will give you a question. But you'll be taking loudly, shouting and laughing. If I don't fall asleep before midnight, I usually stay awake all night. All right. And the examiner was playing a role, that lady living above you, one store higher. So remember, now you must make her sure concerning her anxiety or misgiving, where you express your understanding for it, but assure her that your meeting downstairs will be finished before midnight. So you say, I know what you mean, but you shouldn't worry. I can assure you that we're planning to finish our little party before midnight. We have to go to work tomorrow. You know that, don't you? All right. And now the examiner plays her role of your neighbor, older lady living above you. I know, but young people don't even know how noisy you can be. Just don't let your guests out on the balcony for a smoke. I keep my windows open and I don't want to listen to their conversations. So, my dear student, you have such a neighbor or neighbors, and you say to her, we have now the third item. I will remind you, you should not agree with her proposed condition, and you should suggest compromise. So you say, look, Mrs. Smith, I am afraid you are asking for too much. I can't agree to that. I don't allow smoking in the flat, so they have to do it on the balcony. All right, I can do something about it. I'll tell them to go for it, sick, one by one. No grouping on the balcony. This means no talking, right? And your neighbor responds, right? Thanks. You're a good boy. All right. So we have done this stuff now. About basic level and set 2. We're not quite ready yet, but with the first task. Now we come to the task number 2, and we'll have to do with illustration. We'll illustrate a photograph or a picture, and we'll describe now this picture and answer the questions of examiner. So, my dear student, I will tell you in my own words right now what I can see in the picture. That is somewhere in the park or forest, some maybe kind of forest, but probably park. And there are 2 ladies. One of them is younger, and the younger is being questioned by a nice lady standing by her side, and there is in front of them, turned with his back, in a man watching the park around. They are under roofing, under roof of shed, maybe for animals around there. I don't know if forest animals or park animals. In a way, maybe for reindeers, roe deers, so deers. Now is your role. But first you will be given a question posed by examiner. All right. He will raise the following question. Yes. Can you describe the photograph, please? All right. And you're saying, in the picture, I can see 2 teenage girls. They are the most important in that photo. There is also a man in the background behind their backs. The girls seem to be good friends or even sisters, as they look quite similar. They both have long fair hair and they are dressed in the same style. They are both wearing sports jumpers. One is black and the other one pale blue. Only the girl on the left has also got a red and gray scarf around her neck. They are even wearing their sunglasses in the same manner. In my opinion, they look almost like twins. In a way, they are both smiling and they look very amused. The girl on the left is holding her mobile phone, so maybe there is something funny about that phone. I don't know. The whole scene is taking place outside. They are sitting under a wooden roof somewhere out in a forest. We can see some trees around. Well, maybe it's a park rather than forest, as there are some cars and even a baby stroller. It looks like it's either spring or autumn because there are no leaves on the trees, but it can't be very cold. All right, and now you will be given a question from examiner. Right. So, what do you think the girls are laughing at? All right. And your part now, my dear student. Well, I figure it must be something connected with the mobile phone they are looking at. To be specific, the one on the right is looking at phone. Her friend is looking at her as if she wanted to check whether she also thinks it's funny. What could it be? It could be anything that the phone can receive or produce. Maybe it's a funny text message that someone sends to her, a joke or a rhyme. It could also be a picture, a photograph of a funny situation or a cartoon. Maybe the phone is making funny sounds and the girl is demonstrating them to her friend. Something like a silly ringtone. She may have recorded something funny and is now playing it to her friend. Perhaps the phone has funny games. There is a lot of things that a phone can have or do, so the choice is almost unlimited. All right. And now, examiner is giving you a question. Is a mobile phone important in your life? Tell me, please, why or why not? And now, my dear student, is your role. So you say, for example, I think it is important to me for many reasons. First of all, I like to be able to contact anyone I need without delay. The most typical example is calling my parents to say that I'll be late when they are waiting for me. A good phone can do the work of a personal stereo and organizer, recorder, and an alarm clock. I think it's useful that a phone can remind me about the things I would otherwise forget, like a program I want to watch on TV or an important homework or when I promise to call someone. Well, all I have to do is make a note. When I am on a train, I sometimes play games on my phone or I listen to music. I think most phones these days come with headsets, which is really great. When I see something funny, I can take a photo of it and later show it to others. Now, texting my friends is a lot of fun too. No one can hear what we're talking about. And we can be sure we are not disturbing each other because we're not calling, for example, at school. Then I can quickly check during the break and there a funny message. It always cheers me up. Alright, so we're ready with 2 sets now. Yeah, we are on basic level, and I will give you now set number 3 and task 1 with starting with steered conversations. First of all, you will familiarize yourself with description of 3 situations. What do you think of your own view? By your own view, how will you play these roles? All right. So first is getting an information, and then giving an information. So now you are participant of language course, English language course, and you live by an English family, and your hosts would want to know something about your home, all right, or your house if you're leaving house. But if you live in a block of in a block of flats, so about your home, and in conversation with them, you will consider 3 points as usually. And now I'll present these points to you. The first one is describe briefly your home, house, or flat. And number 2 is inform them if you like, if it is to your liking to live in your own town, in your own village, yes, or maybe city. And number 3, ask your hosts about the atmosphere dominating or prevailing in the district, their surroundings, where you live with them right now. All right, so now examiner will start to ask you. He will just give you a question, and this posed question will be, so tell us, what's your home life? And you respond, well, it's an average 3-room flat in an old block. It's rather small. only about 50 meters square, but it's enough for the three of us. It has a nice bright kitchen. It's on the third floor, so it has a pretty view from the window. All right. Thus, my dear student, you have described your home, your flat. And now, remember, we have second item. You must inform if you feel good where you live in your town or city or village. All right, so therefore, the examiner is giving you the question as follows. And how do you like it there? And you respond, to tell you the truth, I really like it there. There are a few blocks around, but it's also a very green area. It's quite clean and I think it's safe. I never had any trouble coming back home at night. I like my neighbors too, and I'm glad there are some shops around. It's a nice place. All right, we come to the item number 3. You must ask about the atmosphere, as I said, the atmosphere that dominates in your district, in your area, in your surroundings, where you live with your hosts. All right, and examiner gives you the following question. We hope you like it here too. So that is a suggestive question. All right, and it is your turn that you should react. And it looks like, I definitely love the house. And tell me about the atmosphere in your district. Is it a friendly place? Is there any community life? And you get response from your examiner. Very much so. You will soon see it for yourself. All right. And now, relating your events as next point of this task in set number 3. When you are abroad, outside your country, once in the evening, one evening together or alone with your English-speaking acquaintances, and you recollect or remind your best courageous adventures from your childhood. You know what? Tell us something about your adventure. And before we start, you get 3 points again, 3 items. First is where and when this happened. And number 2, what exactly happened and how it resulted so, how it came to it. And 3, the last item of this of our relating the events is what about your feelings aftermath? All right, so what are your feelings concerning um, this event. All right, so now you, dear student, will start, and I'll give you example how. It happened when I was staying at my grandmother's house in the countryside. It was in the summer. I think it was when I was only 6 years old, and I still remember it so clearly. All right, so now you have the first item ready. I remind you about this item where and when it happened. Now, item 2, what exactly happened and how it was resulted in it, so how it came to it. Examiner poses you a question as follows. What exactly happened? And you reply this question as follows. You see, I always loved animals. My grandparents kept many farm animals, among others, geese. So I guess I thought it was time to make friends with the geese. I came closer, but one of the birds wanted to discourage me and started beating its wings. I wanted to tease it and came up. Then it hit me with its beak. I ran away as fast as I could. The next thing I discovered was a hole in my funny woolen trousers. How did you feel about it? That is the question from how were your feelings after experiencing this event. And you got a question posed from examiner. How did you feel about it? And you say, well, I thought it was scary, but then I saw all my family looking through the windows, laughing at me hysterically. So I started laughing too. I never came that close to geese again, though. And now, negotiating. My dear student, in the course of staying abroad, outside your country, outside of Poland, it came to a small accident. Nothing so serious, but in most probability you have twisted, you have dislocated, you have sprained your leg, all right? And you go to the physician, to the doctor, and he intends to give you just treatment for 3 days, that you should not go out. You should stay in. You should stay home. And in conversation with the doctor, first of all, again, 3 items, don't agree for such a solution, and give the reason why you disagree, why you can't accept it. Number 2, ask him for another option, for other possibility or alternate possibility of treatment for your leg, and make him sure that you will apply to it. that you will follow those instructions given. And number 3 item is accept solution of compromise and express your gratitude or gratefulness, so to say. All right, we start with this negotiating. So, the examiner will pose a question as follows. Oh, and the most important, you have to stay in bed for 3 days. And your role is, in bed? I am terribly sorry, doctor, but it's impossible. You see, I found a nice part-time job at a shop and I am on a 2-week trial period. I have to go to work. And the doctor is saying, or examiner plays this role, but you have a twisted ankle. You mustn't just walk around. And you reply, please, doctor, why don't we put it in plaster or bandage? And I promise I'll rest my leg as often as possible. I'll ask a friend to stand in for me while I do paperwork in the back of the shop with my leg resting on a chair, please. I promise I'll take care of it. And examiner or doctor says, don't know. Do you realize that it's serious? If you insist, I'll put it in plaster for 10 days and you'll have to come for a checkup in 5 days. And you say, thank you very much, doctor. I promise I will. I really appreciate your understanding. Thanks a million. All right. We have done enough. 1 book and a half. Here we go, my dear students. Now, task number 2. We'll be having now our conversation on basics of illustration. So we have a picture. Describe this illustration and answer the questions of examiner. I will tell you just in brief that there is an insane guy probably springing downwards, I don't know, over fence or from the fence, and I don't know where he wants to descend. He looks like Bruce Lee in the air. But okay, wait up and we see how it looks like, okay, for examination, for your exam. All right, so now, examiner is asking you, can you describe the photograph, please? And your role now. In the picture, there are 2 young boys who are roller blading. They are teenagers, I believe, about 12 or 13 years old. They are either Afro-American or Hispanic. They are dressed in casual clothes, kind of grayish trousers. And one of them is also wearing a t-shirt. And of course, both boys have got their roller blades on. I think they are in what they call a skate park. a place where roller skaters can practice their skills. In the background, there is another person, someone wearing a black jumper and a white cap. I guess this is in place in a big city, but probably on the outskirts. I can see some green trees behind the rails, but also very tall buildings like our tower blocks, but different in construction. Well, the boys seem to be practicing very hard. They are doing quite a difficult thing, riding up a large slide like a wall, then turning around in the air and jumping back down on the slide. The one who's in the air seems to be doing it quite confidently. It looks like the other boy is still learning. I'm sure they are having a great time. They look so dedicated to it and so concentrated on what they are doing. And now, examiner poses you a question. What kind of people do you think these boys are? What are they like? And now, my dear student, your role. Let me see. Well, in my opinion, although I may be wrong, of course, these boys have a rather tough childhood. Um, Somewhere out in the streets of a big city, it looks like they decided to practice sport in order to achieve something, not just for the fun of it. This picture reminds me of a typical image black teenager neglected by his parents, who wants to be good at something. Such teenagers aren't very keen on studying and spend a lot of time outside. And if they don't want to be part of a gang, they take up some sport or dancing. That is how they can prove to the world that they can do something special or worthwhile too. So I guess this is what these boys are like: poor but ambitious, adventurous, and in a way hard work. After all, it takes time to master such risky figures, and they are doing it without helmets or knee pads. Maybe it's because they simply can't afford any more equipment, or because they enjoy taking risks and don't care if something's going to happen to them. And now, examiner, what do you think about doing sports? Is it worth the risk? And now, my dear student, is your answer. Well, it's hard to say. Whatever gets you on, as they say, most probably it isn't worth the risk for an onlooker, but for the person who does it, it is worth everything in the world. Take people who climb the highest mountains, for example. There's a whole lot of risk connected with it, but this is what they live for. They put their health and even life in danger, but the feeling they get when they climb and when they finally reach the top of the mountain rewards all the pain and risk. The same is true for all extreme sports. If you ask me, divers may suffer from some unpleasant health problems, but what they see underwater is such a wonderful experience that they do it time and again. Those who jump out of the plane with a parachute say that the adrenaline rush and the feeling of flying like a bird is better than anything on the ground. I believe them all. That's why I think it's worth the risk. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have now 3 sets done on this whole first part work. So thank you, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen, if you're adults, and wishing you all the best in your successful exam. Here's Jarka.